Thank you. So welcome to tonight's council meeting. We have all councillors present. Apologies. To start the official proceedings, I'd like to acknowledge that we are meeting on Jara country, which the members and elders of the Jara community and their forebears have been custodians for many centuries and have performed age-old ceremonies of celebration, initiation and renewal. We acknowledge that their living culture and the unique role in the life of this region. Council meetings audio and video recorded and made available to the public via electronic media, including YouTube. Declarations of interest and conflicts of interest. Councillor Cordy.
Thanks, Mayor. I just declare a general conflict of interest, which was item 9.2.3 on the agenda, which is response to petition West End Tennis Courts. Thank you.
Councillor McClure.
No, Mayor, I declare conflict of interest with item 9.3.1, which is the Eddy Street planning matter. If it's a general conflict of interest, is it? Yeah. Thank you.
And I'll declare the same. And Councillor Driscoll will declare the same. Councillor Neo at 9.31 would like you to take the chair. Minutes of the previous council meeting, the 15th of February 2022.
Yes, I confirm the meeting of the Mount Alexander Shire Council held on the 15th of February 2022 to be confirmed.
Seconder, Councillor O'Neill. Discussion. All in favour? Carried. Item 5, acknowledgements. There are none, so we now go to public question time. CEO. Someone like to move Councillor Cordy that we suspend standing orders. Seconder, Councillor Gardner. Now, second.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, we do have two questions on the notice, as councillors have seen and have had those circulated in full. The first one is from Di Bell, who asks a variety of questions in regard to the compliance matter. We're not at liberty to speak about that matter in the forum here because it does have quite a bit of detail about individuals in there. That doesn't mean our governance rules, in particular clause 12.1.5b, D and K. But I will hand over to Director O'Neill there if you don't mind for just a comment.
Thank you. I confirm for Ms. Bell that the community safety and the energy team will follow up on the issues that have been mentioned in that question.
Thank you.
Thank you. The second matter is from Kim Lai. And again, the content within that submission there doesn't allow us to read that out in public under local governance rules 12.1.5 part D as it relates to personnel matters. However, I will again ask Director Anir to provide a general comment and we'll follow up after, of course.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I confirm that the statutory planning team will follow up with Mr. Lai with regard to the issues that have been raised.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the public? Hello. Resumption of standing orders. Councillor Cordy is moving. Seconded. Councillor Driscoll. All in favour? Carried. 7 petitions and letters.
Thanks, Mayor Maltby. Council received a petition from residents with 80 signatories requesting that the points contained within their submission to Harcourt's planning scheme as part of the Plan Harcourt be considered and carried out to preserve the character of Harcourt and minimise the environmental impacts of future developments. In line with section 12.2.3 of Council's Governance Rules 2020, if a petition or joint letter relates to a statutory matter, planning matter, or any other matter for which there is a community engagement process already in place, the petition or joint letter will be acknowledged and the lead signatory advised that it will be considered and responded to in accordance with those processes. So in view of that, I would move the motion that Council, in accordance with the Governance Rules 2020, acknowledges the petition and advises the lead signatory that it will be considering as a joint submission to Planning Scheme Amendment C94 MALX as set out in the Planning and Environment Act 1987 at section 21A. Thank you.
Seconder, councillor Driscoll. Any discussion? All in favour? Carried. Item 8, there is no committee reports. Item 9, officer reports. 9.1, community, nil. 9.2, environment, dog. 9.2.1, dog and cat registration fee policy.
Mount Alexander Shire Council has established a dog and cat registration fee policy to ensure consistency in management requests for pet registration fee reductions and refunds. The report provides the reviewed dog and cat registration fee policy to council for adoption.
Somebody like to make a motion? Councillor Neal.
I move that council adopts the dog and cat registration fee policy.
Seconder, councillor McClure. Any discussion?
Sure. I guess the purpose of this is so if something happens, like the animal dies throughout the year, you get some money back. This happened to me once when my cat Myrtle was run over, one of my 6 cats that I've talked about previously. And with the money that I was refunded, I planted a tree on his grave, so it was much appreciated, and I'm sure by other people as well. So yeah, good policy.
Thank you. Any other comments? All those in favour of the motion? Carried. 9.2.3, response to a petition West End tennis courts.
2.2.
Sorry. 9.2.2, memorandum of understanding, Mount Alexander Shire Council and Mount Alexander Sustainability Group. Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Mayor Maltby. So I'm introducing this. So the Mount Alexander Shire Council and the Mount Alexander Sustainability Group are aligned in a shared desire to improve sustainability outcomes for the Mount Alexander community. The two organisations have collaborated by 2 previous memorandum of understanding and the periods July 2014 to June 2017 and 1st July 2017 to 30th June 2020. A new MOU has been prepared in consultation with council officers and representatives of Mark Mazzoni for the period 1st July 2020 to 30th June 2025. This is a 5-year agreement and the longer time frame reflects the success of past MOUs and reduces administration. The new MOU does not diverge in intent or meaning from the original MOU and will support the ongoing and mutually beneficial relationship between council and Massard. The scope of the MOU does not include discussion on issues that will be coming for council for decision. And I would like to recommend it as printed.
Second to the councillor Cordy, second recommendation.
Mayor, can I ask a question of Joyce tonight in regards to MOUs? I understand this one is this one has been going for a long time. Is this the fact that we have a memorandum of understanding between this group and Shire? Is this an unusual thing, or like how many MOUs do we have?
Thank you, councillor Henderson, for that question. I would estimate we have about 3 dozen memorandums of understanding or service agreements at the moment, and there's many more coming through, and the purpose is really to outline roles, responsibilities and the authorising environment. So it's very common to have a memorandum of understanding with council and other parties.
Any other councillor wish to comment?
I was just going to say, before we vote on, I suppose, the importance of this MOU going forward really is that they're about the roadmap to carbon neutrality. And I know the council are working quite closely on that. I just want to make a point though that obviously at the moment there is community groups about the potential planning application for a proposed burnt fuel facility. And I just wanted to point out that the MOU doesn't cover this, nor encourage it or support it. In the future, if that project goes anywhere, it will be a planning application. And of course, we as councillors will discuss it outside of this MOU at a council meeting with that normal process.
Thanks, councillor Gardner. Those in favour of the motion? Against? Carried. Now the Westgate Tennis Courts, 923. Please leave the room. Councillor McLaughlin.
Mayor. Council received a petition on the 21st of December 2021 from residents in relation to the concerns to the condition of the 2 courts at the West End Tennis Courts, the Morrissey Reserve, Castlemaine. The petition was signed by 95 residents, predominantly from the area close to the Morrissey Reserve. The residents are requesting a public consultation process with council to determine preferred details of an upgrade or redevelopment. Council officers agree that the matters identified within the petition need to be assessed and have undertaken an independent hardcore assessment to guide the potential short, medium and long-term options for future consideration by council. The hardcore assessment was conducted on Wednesday, the 23rd of February this year, and the report will be provided in March 2022. Following an assessment, it is proposed to share the outcomes with the first petitioner and undertake further consultation with the organiser of the petition, or preferably a small community group presenting the petition, to further understand the request for improvements and explore opportunities to address these improvements.
Thank you. Someone like to move a motion?
So I'm happy to move the recommendation as printed, Mayor, that Council 1 shares the results of the recent hardcore assessments with the first signatory of the petition. 2, consults with a small group representing the petition on the short, medium and long-term opportunities for improvements at Morrissey Reserve Tennis Courts. And 3, receives a further report following the proposed consultation and further investigation.
Thank you. Second, councillor Nia. Any discussion? Councillor Driscoll.
Thanks, Mayor. I just want to point out that the actual council officers have inspected the courts and actually agree with the petitioners that the existing tennis courts are showing signs of deterioration with several cracks easily visible. So they're on the same page. I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah. Thank you. Councillor Henderson.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, it's nice to know that tennis courts have become of interest again. There are quite a few unloved and unplayed on tennis courts around the place. I'm not quite sure how Malden's going with the tennis courts. They're playable, but they're not.
They're working on
They're working on it, that's right. Each support, I suppose, waxes and wanes. I'm not quite sure what Newstead or Guildford's interested in having the West End tennis courts revived, but there's always a few people who try a decision that's put in front of them, regardless of what it might be about. However, I'm probably right in Newstead. But apart from the 10% or so that, yes, maybe not live exactly in the area, obviously there's a predominance of West End people. So I see that the recommendation is to receive a further report. And also it does say in the report, it's body to report itself, a court audit and associated report. The costs can be absorbed within the existing operational budget. That's good. Any future work to the courts will need to be considered by council as a future budget bid or external funding application. And of course, then it does come into competition with other places. For example, in my ward, we have Elphinstone tennis courts where there's quite a handsome tree or two growing out of the tennis courts, much to the dismay of those people who prefer to play tennis on it. Has been left to decline due to the scarce resources of council. And also Barfold, which has no facilities other than a very old hall. There are no sporting facilities there whatsoever. And they would love to have tennis court revived. They have a site on there, they've still got a fence around, but again, there's quite a lot of stuff growing through the surface. So Person Lane does have tennis courts, they're not council, they're a private organisation, they're pretty well served by tennis courts, but not municipal ones. So I can understand that, West End would like some, but I would warn that there would be competition from places that have far less than what's available for sport in Person Lane. So, thank you.
A very good point. All those in favour of the motion? Carried. "35 Eddie Street" is the next item.
Sorry. All right, 9.3.1 planning application PA 267/2021 for 35 Eddie Street, Castle Lane.
I'll introduce that. Mayor Anil, sorry, my mind went blank. The council received an application for building and works associated with the existing education use of the land, use and development of land for place of assembly. Just to clarify that, it's an interpretive display centre and reduction of car parking requirements at 35 Eddie Street, Castle Lane. The subject site is located in the public use zone, Schedule 2 education, and is partly affected by the bush management overlay of the Mount Alexander planning scheme. The applicant has been referred to council for a decision as the cost of works associated with the proposal is over value of $1 million. The application received one objection. The grounds of objection included amenity, impacts, traffic and environmental considerations. It is recommended the council issue a notice of decision to grant a planning permit as the proposal is considered to present an orderly planning outcome that is consistent with the objectives of the PUZ2 and contents of the site and surrounds. And I would like to move it as printed, and it is a long bunch of
Do I have a second?
conditions.
Councillor Cordy, any opposition? Would you like to speak to your motion, Councillor Gardner?
Yeah, I mean, this is of Eddie Street, most people would know as the former school building. It's a very exciting what's going up there at the moment. This mainly is around the applicant is seeking to use part of the secondary school for a interpretive display centre. It essentially for the hot rodders, and then they also use it to obviously work on cars and train and upskill children. So it's actually a very exciting initiative. And I also note that whilst there was one objector when we held our meeting, they failed to attend. I support it wholeheartedly.
Would you like to speak to the motion, councillor Courtney?
Just to say that the proposed use at the former secondary school site seems entirely appropriate, and it's going to be a fantastic facility for the local, but also national hot rodding fraternity. So it'll be great to see this come to fruition. Thank you.
Councillor Henderson, would you like to say anything?
Wouldn't be a show without punch. So, yeah, that's fantastic. Obviously, after this comes the chasing after the money, but it won't come cheap. But obviously, the first thing that has to happen is approval for planning permit. And I wholeheartedly support it, and I believe also it's going to support our theatre group with a home that they've not had for a long time. So, hats off to the hot rodders for generously agreeing to share the space, and that would be a superb outcome for Castlemaine in many ways. So yes, I support it.
All right, we'll put it to the vote. All in favour? That's all of us here. Carried. Review.
You know, work begins.
Thanks, councillor Neal. Nine three two, planning application PA 370 2021, Boundary Road and Mans Road, and Heathcote, Clinton Road and East Metcalfe, Langwood Road, Langwood. Councillor Henderson.
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to introduce this. We've received an application for removal of vegetation in relation to the installation of a recycled water pipeline at Boundary Road, Mans Road, Eastcote Kyneton Road and East Metcalfe Langley Road, Langley. A planning permit is required to remove vegetation, as you can remember, and the application has been referred to council and there are 7 objections, and it's recommended the notice of decision to grant a permit is issued, as the applicant has demonstrated principles of avoid and minimise and has the capacity to relocate any habitat found in the applicable vegetation. So that's the introduction, and I'd like to move that council issues a notice of decision to grant a planning permit for the boundary removal of vegetation in relation to the recycled water pipeline, recycled water pipeline, Boundary Road, Mans Road, Eastcote Kyneton Road and East Metcalfe Langley Road, and is subject to a large number of conditions which are printed in the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. Seconder. Councillor Gardner. Discussion.
I'd like to speak to another people. This certainly, this application has attracted some very strong objections from some very passionate people. However, the large part of their objections we cannot consider because they're outside our electoral council does not have the ability to consider whether this pipeline is a good idea or not, because the Colourbound Water, as an essential service provider, has been granted an exemption by the Department of Environment, Land, Water and Planning from legal permit. Am I correct? Am I CEO or director? And however, they were told in the letter, we have a copy, which says that they do need to get a permit for any tree removal. And that's what this application is about. So before us, councillors, is a consideration for tree removal. 7 trees. The total number of trees on this line is 725, and there's probably a fair proportion of a tree involved in printing out this copy of the report done by GHD on the conditions of each tree along the line, not just in our shire, but in Western Ranges, and what they are, common name, origin, their age, size, their health, their structure, expected life left, and will they be lost or claimed if they have a defect. So it's an amazing collection audit of all the trees, which was required as part of the permit. 7 of these are said to be lost in the report. And I must admit, when I first saw this, I thought, uh-oh. I was called by a couple of the objectors to come and meet the trees, which I did, on the corner of Boundary and Mans and Heathcote Kyneton Road. And one tree in particular stands out as being a remarkable tree, quite old, so over 100 at least, and has almost completely regrown from the dead tree. It's quite a survivor. However, we were in the applicant objector meeting, and we heard from the Colourbound Water, who assured us that when they're applying for removal, they're not going to take the chainsaw to this tree or other trees. It's simply that in the process of putting in the pipeline, and they have to dig a trench in this zone because they would go around the corner from Boundary Road into Mans Road, which is a sharp, more than 90-degree turn. They can't drill, they can't have a ground drill, they have to go open trench to get around the corner. And in so doing, they will impact to a small extent on the root zone of especially this large tree. So there is a potential that tree to be lost if the roots are damaged to the extent it can no longer thrive and survive. However, it looks like it's a darn good survivor. It's come back from the dead at least once. So I'd suggest that it's got a good fighting chance to survive Colourbound Water's impact and live for another couple of 100 years. So with that in mind, I'm prepared to move this motion to approve removal, but understanding it's removal only they happen to be irreparably damaged down the track. If in time they're not looking okay and have to be removed.
Thank you. Anyone else? Gary?
I'll just make an assessment, Mayor, that I think Colourbound Water have gone to a lot of work to identify, and trying to minimise any destruction, and particularly when you consider that they're going to bore a great majority of the pipeline. It's a large diameter pipeline, so the cost of boring that size pipeline is not cheap. So it would cost them a substantial more amount of money to do a lot of boring to save the native vegetation. So I'm satisfied that they have gone to a lot of work to minimise the destruction. So I think it's support.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Cordy?
Thanks, Mayor. I think in this case, where we had the applicant objective meeting, it's reassuring to hear the representative of Colourbound stating that they would make their best endeavours to preserve the native vegetation. So that was really good to hear that, because nobody wants to see this these large trees taken out. So with their best efforts and the contractor's best efforts, hopefully the trees won't come to any harm. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Ms. Murdoch, can I just say, I'm just not quite correct, so I'm not actually countering anyone's argument. I just want to point out that the council is very interested in this project, even though we don't have to consider it, or can't consider it for planning. However, it is setting up a big operation in our shire, in property of Croxton Park, using Class C recycled water to irrigate the land. So councillors have asked to have a briefing from Coleman Water, and we will be receiving that, I understand, in a future council briefing. So we will find out and be able to ask more questions about the long-term implications and what conditions and safeguards will be in place. Thank you.
Thank you. Someone else? All in favour of the motion? Against? Carried. Item 10 is the delegates report, CEO. Oh, any councillor got a delegates report? Councillor Leah.
So on just over Friday last week, I went to the first meeting of the new incarnation of the Warrack initiatives, which used to be the ZNet steering committee. It was really good. A lot of new people, a lot of really knowledgeable and passionate people from lots of different backgrounds were represented there. And it was pretty much having a general discussion about the way governance would look for the group, and then what bearing that would have on the working groups that came out of that. So most of the work will be done by working groups, and they'll all be focusing on a different area, such as waste or farming or housing. And then the core group will kind of oversee that and make sure everyone's going in the right direction. So it seemed very positive. It seemed like stuff is going to happen very soon. So that was a really good start to that group for this year, and I was happy to be there.
Thank you. Anyone else? CEO.
Thank you, Mayor. As usual, circulated the list of activities of yourself and myself, but also this list of activities is dominated by the efforts of Director Knight while she was acting CEO. Thank you again, Director Knight, for filling in for me. This has allowed me to have some time off, and also executive and others who supported you as well. Very much appreciated by me. So yes, I do welcome questions on any of the items that Director Knight was involved in, councillors. Not really. I'll pick up on a couple that I was here for, if I may. Had a great discussion with Minister for Regional Development the other day. It was about a half-hour chat about thoughts on what were priorities for us. Had a great opportunity to talk about the importance of trying to sort out housing affordability within our shire, which, of course, as you know, Minister Thomas well understands that challenge, is trying to do what she can do to help sort that out as well. But was great to be able to talk about all the work that's happening at a community level through My Home Network. We're going to continue to do a great job of finding ways to identify solutions and then try and drive those, as well as all the work that you're hearing about through not only our housing officer, but the planning department and others who are also trying to find out what is it that we can do practically to help shorten the medium and the long term with that. Also got to talk about other good things like health and wellbeing precincts and swimming pools. I can assure you, Councillor Nid. A great conversation with Minister Thomas, which was initiated by her as well. Director Knight and I, as you mentioned earlier, we did get to meet with Castlemaine Police Station Commander, who is Darren McQueen. Haven't had a chance to meet him yet. Really great discussion, and very much Vic Pole is interested in seeing what can we do to progress the concept of a safety committee for the shire. You might remember a while ago we had a go at doing that. We did get a lot of interest out of the community, which was a great sign. We thought about how people might feel in the community. Doesn't mean there's not opportunities for perhaps people like us to be sitting around the table and talking about, say, how the things going from a bureaucratic perspective and organisational perspective that we may or may not understand of each other and therefore see some opportunities that we're not seeing at the moment. So we're expecting that they'll certainly want to pursue that again direct tonight in the near future. But also equally, Darren McQueen was very, very pleased with the idea of coming in and having a chance to speak with you all about what are the police seeing is going on from a police perspective in our community. So we'll be organising that soon as well, soon as we can get them into the agenda. The other one that should be on the list that I failed to put on there was International Women's Day, which most councillors and all of our executive were able to go over the road to the village square and, apart from using great music from local people, listen to Councillor Amir's pretty moving speech and big challenge to all of us to do better. So well done, Councillor Amir. Thank you for doing that. That's it for me, Nick. Hand over to you.
All right. So, at 11, there's no notices of movement.
Councillor McCarthy,
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I was just going to ask a question of the CEO. During your discussions with the police, was there any discussion about the ongoing issue of graffiti and removal and those sorts of things around there?
I think, so sorry for the questions related to graffiti if that didn't get picked up.
Sorry.
I think every discussion that we have with the police includes a discussion about graffiti. It was really great to hear from Darren McQueen that they had great success with stopping that person who surprisingly was 31 years old and still felt like that was a good thing to do, from doing a lot of graffiti across particularly Castle Lane. That person has moved on from our community. It was not a full-time or permanent person in our community, so it's nice to hear that moved on as well. And the police are certainly keeping a close eye on any new outbreaks of graffiti and taking action on that where they can. They've got quite sophisticated processes where they are able to see patterns and repeat patterns in the graffiti and attach those to people. So it's a job for all of us to keep reporting that to the police, whether it's the community or ourselves, keep reporting those incidents to the police and they will certainly follow them up. Okay. They're eager to see this stay on top of that. The police are, of course, as well as themselves.
Thank you. Anyone else? Right. So 11, there's no notices of motion. 12, there's no urgent special business. 13, there's no confidential items. And at 14, I declare the meeting closed. 7:08, Councillor Courtney.